And today we're going to dive right into the second half, the second major portion of understanding biblical submission, jumping right into how it affects your femininity, okay? Now, this is something that's really near and dear to my heart as a healed woman, as a ministry leader, as a mouthpiece for the Lord, as a woman, listen, okay? As a woman stepping into her queen mindset, her queen mentality, it's really important for me to understand the biblical roles and mandates that God has given his faithful children, his kings and queens, because they absolutely benefit us here on earth. These roles that we're called to in singlehood and marriage are not just for God's glory, they're for our good as well. And it's really important, and it's a pivotal moment in someone's life when you realize how beneficial it is to submit as a woman, to be a leader as a man, to honor your husband, to respect your husband, okay? To honor and respect your King of Kings before God can bless you with a husband, okay? So these are things that we are really coming into the knowledge and understanding of how these things work according to God's original design, okay? If you're not subscribed, honey, what are you doing? What are you sleeping on, okay, my dear? You're sleeping on the healed woman community. We are on fire, and we want you to burn with the fire and desire for Christ along with us. So go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss any part 1s or part 2s of the Kingdom Marriage Prep series, and we're going to dive right in. So last week we definitely set the foundation for submission, what it really means to come under someone else's mission, how the divine order of God, man, wife, children really sets us up for success, harmony, and balance in our relationships, and how we can continue to understand how beautiful submission is to God. Which is why it's so important you check out that first video, my dear. Like, literally pause it right now and go check out the first installment, okay? But continuing right on, for those who are caught up, your submission as a woman, okay, moves the heart of your husband. Both of them, both of your husbands, okay? Because we know that God is our spiritual husband, our forever husband. Submission allows you to rest in your femininity in both spiritual and physical realms, okay? Your ability to trust someone as your spiritual leader puts you in a place of divine rest, my dear. It puts you in a place of not being on the defensive all the time. It puts you in a place of resting, of being able to operate from a place of confidence, comfort, trust, okay? And I would even say just respect for your husband's role in your life, okay? Your submission to God moves the needle in your faith journey, okay? It moves the needle of how God operates in your life. And the same happens with your husband. The more that you appreciate his efforts, inspire him, empower him, let him know how much you value his leadership, the more confidence you will give him in his leadership and his ability to lead you and your family into destiny. So it really goes hand in hand with, if you are in a place of resting in your husband's decisions, you can now focus on being more of a cheerleader. You can focus now on being more of a nurturer, more of the supporter. You can fall back into the roles God created you to embody naturally, effortlessly. Okay, women, we are cheerleaders by design. We're supporters, empowerers, nurturers, comforters. These are the roles in which we rest in effortlessly. I mean, they must be developed in us when we leave the wilderness and step into our promised land, okay? But these are still heart postures that the Lord desires for his daughters to embody. Not that the sons can't, but that is not your dominant energy in marriage. And your role as the helpmeet, as the submitted wife, is to support, to encourage, to inspire, to nurture, to comfort, to nourish, okay? That covers physical nourishment, like the caring of the home, the meals, preparing of the meals, as well as spiritual nourishment, as well as sexual nourishment, okay? And these are all beautiful roles that I hope to cover further down the line in our Kingdom Marriage Prep series. Oh, we will absolutely have a video on kingdom sex. That is not even a question. It's just a matter of when the Lord wants me to speak forth, because your girl has a couple juicy things to say on kingdom marriage, on marriage and on kingdom sex in marriage. Okay, the Holy Spirit was like, not yet, not yet. So your submission, okay, your ability to say yes to two kings gives him the confidence he needs to keep leading you, queen. It gives him that confidence. It gives him that trust, okay? It gives him that assurity, okay? You reassure him that whatever he is hearing from the Holy Spirit and deciding to do with your family is what's best, is what you agree with, is what you will support wholeheartedly with your with your actions, with your words, with your attitude, okay? Because submission is not just saying yes, it's how you say yes. It's when you say yes. Do you say it immediately, or are you constantly doubting your husband when he's giving you what the Lord has been speaking to him? So for example, I think I was trying to think of the example from last week that I didn't get to mention. I followed a pastor and his wife, and they became a couple before she was called into ministry. So he was already a pastor, but she was still teaching. And so he was saying that when they came into union, that was her opportunity. That was God's way of saying, I'm calling you into ministry as well. So God called her away from her full-time job into ministry beside her pastor husband. She had no dreams of ever being a pastor's wife. She was a school teacher, and God blessed her with a voice to sing. Okay, so now she leads the praise and worship at their church, and he's the pastor. I mean, how beautiful is that? Literally, they're in ministry together. And had she not submitted to her King of Kings and her king, telling them it's time for you to leave work and walk into full-time ministry with me, would she have done it? Would she have done it immediately, with the quickness, swiftly? So that was the example I was trying to think of, when you showing your submission through your actions, through the timing, through the heart posture, through the attitude, through the non-verbal communication when your husband is telling you to do something. Okay, it all matters, and it all gives him that confidence that he needs to continue telling you things, you know, lovingly, okay, according to the Spirit, according to what the Lord is urging him to do for the family, okay? So allowing your husband to embody the divine role he was created for allows you to simultaneously embody the role you were created for, okay? And it creates an atmosphere for healthy femininity and masculinity to thrive. Okay, it creates that divine balance and harmony that we should all aspire to in marriage. Remember, we're not trying to be a copy of one another. Your husband is not trying to come home to another leader. He's not trying to come home to someone who's feisty and has an attitude and who doesn't know how to create or uphold an environment of peace and calm and tranquility. He's not trying to come home to all that drama, my dear. That is your responsibility. And he comes home in a way that you all can enter into such a beautiful flow, because you understand where you rest in your femininity and where he takes the charge or takes the lead in his masculinity. Okay, so we're not trying to be copies of one another. We're trying to rest in the energies that God gave us, he gifted to us on this earth. Okay? So your lack of submission, so giving him that submission freely, willingly, confidently gives him something, puts him in that role that he was created to embody. But your lack of submission also has an effect, okay? It reflects the state of your relationship with yourself and with God. So your inability to submit to him says, one, that you have not allowed God to prune submission in you. You have not allowed God to prune submission in you in your single season, that you are not fully submitted to your King of Kings either, because if you are submitted to the vision God gave you before marriage, and your husband comes in with that same or similar complementary vision in marriage, you should be able to still submit to that same vision for your marriage, for your destiny together in your purposeful partnership. Remember, this partnership does not exist without purpose. So your purposes are already aligned, and you all are now journeying together to accomplish a similar goal. You all may go about it differently. Look, let's take that pastor, for example. They're both in ministry. Their goal, their purpose is to advance the kingdom, to save souls, okay, to minister to souls. She does it through singing and worship, and he does it through pastoral care. Come on, there's not a better example right now. And if she were to not submit, one, they would be in need of a choir director, okay, of a worship leader. Two, what would she be doing if she were not leading worship? Okay, so what would be her role? What would be her purpose? Is she going to continue to be a school teacher? Would she have continued to teach and leave her husband high and dry on the pulpit? He needs her by his side. He needs her up on that pulpit, even though they're there at different times. Well, there were a couple times she was called to preach. There were a couple times she was called to lead some programs that he wasn't able to attend. And because she was there supporting the vision, she was able to step in seamlessly and help her husband and even take his place situationally when called to serve. Okay, you will be called to serve. You will be called to do things in place of your husband, beside your husband, okay, in conjunction with him. And your ability to do that and swiftly and cheerfully and joyfully makes all the difference. And if you are not, if you're questioning your ability to submit to your husband, or if you're questioning your ability to come under the mission, have you heard God correctly in your singlehood? Have you allowed God to prune that heart posture of submission in you in your singlehood? And also it reflects on your relationship with yourself. How do you view yourself as a woman? Because if you're trying to be your own head, you're taking God off of his throne. If you're trying to be the head of your husband, you do not respect the divine order that God has given us as God, man, wife, children. If you are trying to be your own head, you are not resting in your femininity. You are not allowing yourself to embody the natural roles you were created to embody on this earth, because you were not created to be the leader in a relationship. And it's different than a leader. Women can absolutely be leaders. We already are. Okay, we already are. We know that there are female CEOs and leaders and managers and in positions of power and influence. There are more than one way. There's more than one way to serve a king than being in leadership. Okay, as a woman, I'm not saying that you can't serve God in leadership or that you can't serve God by being submitted. Okay, God has different vocations and callings for his children. So whether you are called to a service position in ministry, whether you're called to a leadership position in your career, whether you're called to be a minister, a pastor, a prophetess, a priestess, okay, a ministress, I don't know. You can still lead in your position and submit to your king. It's going to look different because you are in a position of influence, and God will pair you with someone who will not feel emasculated, or he'll pair you with someone who will not be threatened by your leadership position. But if you do not understand how to switch off your masculine when you're in those leadership positions and to switch on your feminine when you are with your husband, your relationship will still take a hit. He is not trying to come home to a co-head, to a co-leader. He is trying to come home to his wife. He is trying to lead with his wife beside him. You're a partner, babe. When you are with your husband, you are the feminine partner, the submitted partner, the supportive partner. And you can be all the things, my dear. You can be a leader in your industry, in your field, in ministry. But when God partners you with a king, he is not looking to be in a relationship with a king. He's looking to be with a queen. And a queen understands her realm of influence and does not usurp her husband, does not veto his decisions, does not emasculate him. So for the women, for the queens out there who are in leadership positions, okay, who are preachers beside their husbands or who do serve in similar capacities to their husbands, you can still remain a submitted queen. You can still show your husband respect and deference even in your leadership position. And it will speak very highly of your ability to transition from a fearless, fierce leader in your sphere and a humble woman of noble character in your relationship. The two can coexist. They can. But it takes work to find that balance so that your husband comes home to his loving wife and not to his bossy co-leader. I'm trying to find the right words because there's nothing wrong with being a boss in the field. But you have to know how to switch that off when you come home. When you're with your husband, when you're with your king, also with your King of Kings. If you can't do that with the position God has placed you in, you're not ready to handle submitting to an earthly king. Something to think about, my dear. Something to think about. Submission really is a sign of respect, of love, of deference, of admiration, of honor, okay? An adoration for your husband in his ability to be in his masculine, to walk in the path God has called him to, and to come under that path seamlessly, naturally, and with excitement, with elation. Okay, you should be happy to submit to your husband, not dreading it. And as you submit to him, you embolden him, you give him confidence, and you give him the reassurance that you trust him, that he is making great, sound destiny decisions, that he's an amazing leader. And you reinforce you reinforce how you feel about him by telling him those things. Hello, words of affirmation. Come on, compliments. He would love that from you. He would love to hear how much you value his leadership, how highly you think of him, how his decisions have benefited your family time and time again, in and out of season. He would love to hear these things from you. And in turn, it will make him a better leader. Knowing that those who answer to him, those who follow him, are well taken care of, that his efforts are not in vain, that his ambitions are not in vain, that his ability to hear God's voice and put it into action with his family is effective. He needs these things, my dear. We've already spoken about speaking the language of the king and how respect, submission, and humility are major in the kingdom for the King of Kings and for the king, because God created them after his own heart, which means men need respect, honor, to be valued, to be found worthy, okay, to be submitted to. And that's how they were created, my dear. And that is how we will make sure that we serve our king in submission. So let's get it.